I want to invite you into a quieter room inside your mind, the one that feels like early morning before the city wakes. No performance, no proving, just you, your breath, and the truth you've been rushing past. The world will keep asking you to speak faster, to explain more, to broadcast every step. But power often grows in the spaces you refuse to fill with noise. Tonight, let's practice a different rhythm. Fewer declarations, more direction, fewer reactions, more presence. Not to become cold, but to become clear. And maybe that's where strength begins, not in making a scene, but in making a center. Lesson 1. Silence as a master move. Silence isn't hiding, it's choosing. When you speak less, you conserve the signal that actually moves your life forward. Attention, patience, clean decisions. I used to narrate my goals as if volume could make them real. It only made me tired. The shift happened when I let results carry the message and kept my plans where they root best, in quiet. Silence buys time, and time lets your nervous system settle so your judgment arrives on schedule. That's the real advantage. Your first reply stops being the loudest voice in the room and starts being the clearest. Practically, silence begins before words. One breath in, a slightly longer breath out. Shoulders drop a fraction. Eyes soften to include the edges of the room. That tiny ritual tells your body, we are safe enough to choose. From there, ask one question that trims most mistakes. What outcome do I want 3 hours from now? Not the win, not the last word. The outcome, clarity, progress, respect, a boundary kept. You'll notice how many sentences fall away when you answer honestly. Silence also protects early momentum. New habits are seedlings. Overexposure, opinions, praise, skepticism can wilt them before they root. Keep the early reps small and private. 10 quiet actions beat 1 dramatic announcement every time. And when provocation shows up, treat silence as a boundary, not a surrender. Some messages are hooks designed to harvest your attention. Don't feed them. Let the invitation expire. Your presence starts to feel different, less reactive, more grounded, and people respond to the signal you send. If, then cues make this real. If I feel the urge to defend, then I buy 10 seconds of quiet before a single word. If someone presses for details I'm not ready to share, then I give a clean headline and a delivery time. Nothing more. If a message spikes my heart rate, then I draft in notes, breathe, and send only what serves the outcome. Under-explaining on purpose isn't cold, it's precise. It keeps you out of arguments designed to steal your day. There's a softer side too, listening. In the space you don't fill, you start hearing the detail that changes the decision, the fear beneath a sharp tone, the simple fix inside a long complaint, the one sentence you actually need to say. Silence turns noise into information. It shifts you from proving to understanding, and understanding is where real influence begins. Try one experiment today. Choose a moment to under-explain. Offer the headline, the next step, and when you'll deliver, then let the work speak. Or take the 10-second rule into your next trigger, and watch how often the first reply your ego wants isn't the one your purpose needs. Quiet will feel unfamiliar at first, like standing on a new floor. Give it a day, then another. Soon the floor feels solid, and the world's noise sounds farther away. Less volume, more voltage. Lesson 2. Your worth isn't a public poll. I used to check the weather of other people's opinions before I decided how to feel about myself. A compliment was sunshine, a delay or a frown was rain. That's a hard way to live. forecasts changing by the hour, mood tied to clouds you don't control. The quiet shift happened when I treated self-respect like climate, not weather. Climate is built slowly by what you practice every day. Weather passes. Here's the trap. When approval becomes oxygen, you start bargaining with your values to breathe. You over-explain to be understood. You say yes to be liked. You post your progress for applause instead of for accountability. The cost isn't just time, it's identity drift. You wake up a few months later and can't tell if you're living your life or a focus-grouped version of it. Worth that, depends on consensus, is always one bad comment away from collapse. So we change the reference point. I choose a smaller audience, the person I am when nobody's watching. That's the only vote that counts every day. I keep score with promises kept, not likes collected. I ask, would I respect me if nobody clapped? It's a harder question than do they approve, and a better compass. Because external approval is a moving target, self-respect is a direction you can walk. Make it practical. Begin with a boundary around explanation. Not every decision needs a courtroom defense. Offer a clear headline and a why that's honest. Then stop. I won't be available tonight. I'm protecting a focus block. No apology tour. You'll feel the itch to add 3 more paragraphs. Let the itch pass. That discomfort is your nervous system weaning off approval as a painkiller. Build a ledger of private wins. 1 promise in the morning that nobody sees. 10 focused minutes on the thing that matters. The hard message sent. The workout started when you didn't feel like it. These are deposits into an account that only you can access. When the day gets noisy, that balance steadies your hand more than any compliment ever could. Use if-then cues to retrain the habit. If I notice myself tailoring the truth to be liked, then I pause and ask, what would I say if I already felt secure? If I'm tempted to post progress for reassurance, then I finish another quiet rep before I share anything. If a delay or a short reply triggers the story, they're unhappy with me, then I add 2 alternative explanations and proceed with the plan I would choose if I weren't scared. Notice how relationships change when worth stops being a poll. You stop auditioning in your own conversations. You ask cleaner questions. You pick partners, clients and friends who value your spine, not your compliance. Some people will drift when you stop bending. Let them. Drift is data. It frees space for those who meet you where your standards live. This isn't about arrogance. It's about ownership. You can be teachable without being bendable, kind without being contortionist, open without being hollow. Approval may visit. It is welcome. But it's not rent you owe to live in your own life. And maybe that's the quiet freedom, to move through the world with a steady center, even when the votes come in mixed. Lesson 3. Non-attachment to people and outcomes. Non-attachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. I had to learn that the hard way. When I clung to people or to the exact picture in my head, my decisions got noisy. I'd overpromise to keep someone close. I'd chase an outcome so tightly that I strangled the very conditions it needed to grow. Attachment felt like commitment, but really it was fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being wrong, fear that if I loosened my grip, life would drop what I loved. It turns out the opposite is usually true. When I loosened my grip, my hands were finally free to do the work. Here's the quiet shift. Do your part fully, then let the rest breathe. Non-attachment is not, I don't care. It's, I care enough to act, and I'm wise enough to release what isn't mine to control. With people, it means loving without trying to edit their script. With goals, It means showing up like a professional, on time, prepared, consistent, while refusing to bully reality into your preferred timeline. You stop living in emotional hostage negotiations. If they text back, I'll feel worthy. If this launch hits, I'm allowed to relax. You trade bargaining for standards. The temperature inside stops taking orders from the weather outside. There's a practical mechanics to it. Attachment compresses your field of vision until you only see one acceptable path. Non-attachment widens the frame. When the first plan bends, you don't break with it. You adjust. You pivot without the theatrics of defeat. That agility is not indifference. It's respect for complexity. People are complex. Markets are complex. You become someone who can hold a direction and still dance with change. Try this in real time. If you feel urgency spike around a person, refreshing, checking, decoding tone, pause and ask, what am I trying to control that isn't mine? Then redirect to the part that is yours. Your presence, your boundary, your next honest message. Keep it clean, short, kind, clear. If you feel urgency around an outcome, numbers, milestones, other people's decisions, run the same audit. What lever is actually in reach? Do that, and only that, for the next hour. Let the rest be undecided for a while. You'll notice how much energy returns when you stop hauling what belongs to gravity. If, then cues make it stick. If I catch myself scripting someone else's reaction, then I replace the script with a standard. I'll say it clearly once. I won't chase it. If I'm looping on a result, then I define one controllable rep and finish it before I check any metrics. If I'm tempted to sugarcoat a boundary so I won't lose someone, then I ask, would I respect me if I heard this? And send the version that earns my own respect. There's a gentler side too, grief. Non-attachment allows clean grief when things shift. You can acknowledge, this mattered to me, without turning the loss into a lifelong verdict. You honor what was, you honor who you were, and you keep walking. That's not hardness, that's maturity. It keeps your heart available for the next honest attempt. Strangely, non-attachment makes you more attractive. To people, to opportunities, to timing. You're no longer broadcasting need, you're broadcasting steadiness. You don't demand guarantees before you act. You act from who you are. That changes the room. It also changes you. And maybe that's the real promise here. When you stop gripping everything, you finally have a hand free to build the life you came for. Lesson 4. Discipline as a love language. I used to think discipline was the hard voice in the room, the drill sergeant that barks until you move. It never lasted. Fear runs hot and burns out fast. What finally worked felt almost the opposite. Discipline as care. Not punishment, not perfection. Care. The kind that leaves the light on for your future self, that cooks for tomorrow, that keeps small promises because the relationship you're building is with the person you're becoming. When I treat discipline like love, I stop negotiating with every mood and start acting in alignment with what I value, even when I don't feel like it. Love shows up. Discipline does too. Here's the quiet truth most people miss. Motivation asks, what do I want right now? Discipline asks, what will I thank myself for later? Those questions lead to very different lives. Want now reaches for shortcuts and applause. Thank later reaches for the rep that compounds. It's not glamorous. 10 focused minutes instead of an hour of scattered effort. 1 clean boundary instead of 3 long explanations. Lacing up shoes when the couch is loud. But the small, unfancy acts become a language your nervous system understands. I keep my word. When that sentence becomes true at the micro level, confidence stops being a pep talk and starts being a memory. Evidence you consult before you doubt. Make it practical and kind. Reduce the distance between you and the first step. I keep a friction kit for hard tasks. The file I need already open, a glass of water on the desk, my phone parked in another room. I don't debate whether to start. I make starting cheap. I also anchor discipline to identity with simple scripts. I'm the kind of person who ships the draft by 2, keeps tech outside the bedroom, walks for 5 minutes before coffee. It's not bravado, it's orientation. The brain loves consistency signals. Give it some. One short example. There was a week I kept missing my writing window, then hating myself for it. I shifted the frame. No more heroic blocks. Just a non-negotiable 20-minute sprint at the same time each morning. Timer on, no internet. I finished more in 3 days than the prior 2 weeks. Not because I became extraordinary, but because I made it ordinary. Discipline as love removes drama. It trades intensity spikes for steady cadence, and cadence is what builds. Use if-then cues to protect the cadence. If I tell myself 5 more minutes on the scroll, then I stand up, place the phone down, and touch the doorknob. Physical movement breaks the spell. If the task feels heavy, then I set a 3-minute timer just to begin, knowing momentum will carry me. If I miss a day, then I reset tonight without a speech. Shame loves monologues. Discipline speaks in actions. What about rest? Love includes it. Discipline without recovery is performance art. The point isn't to heroically grind, it's to be reliable. Reliable people rest before they collapse. They say, done for today, when the marginal returns disappear. They protect tomorrow's clarity like an appointment they can't miss. In the end, discipline becomes the tenderness of structure, the way you hold your life so it can grow. You're not forcing a future, you're building a floor, and maybe that's all you needed. Fewer promises to the world, more kept agreements with yourself, so the person you're becoming feels safe in your hands. Lesson 5. Calm is a tactical advantage. I used to mistake speed for strength. Talk fast, move fast, decide fast, win. But speed without clarity just multiplies errors. Calm isn't the opposite of action. It's the quality control of action. When I slow my breath, my world widens. Options I couldn't see at full sprint become obvious. People open up. Problems separate into parts. Calm doesn't make you soft. It makes you surgical. Think of calm as an operating system. Under stress, most of us boot into panic OS. Short sentences, narrow vision, all or nothing thinking. The upgrade is precision OS. Same hardware, different rules. Longer exhale than inhale. Shoulders down, gaze widened to include the edges of the room. In that state, you trade heat for information. You can hear the thing behind the thing, what someone is actually asking for beneath the sharp tone, where the decision really hinges underneath the noise. Calm is also contagious. Rooms mirror nervous systems. If you show up rushed, the room accelerates. If you show up steady, it synchronizes. I've watched meetings lose 10 minutes of chaos because one person arrived with unhurried eyes and a clear sentence. Let's map the problem, the constraints, the next visible step. That tone pulls people out of performance and into problem solving. It's not charisma, it's regulatory leadership. Make it practical. Build a pre-pressure ritual you can do in 20 seconds. I use 3 steps. Breathe, align, aim. Breathe. In through the nose, out a little longer. 3 reps. Align. Feet grounded, jaw unclenched, shoulders back and down. Aim. 1 sentence for the job in front of me. Clarify the plan. Ask two good questions, or set the boundary kindly. Rituals aren't superstition. They're agreements with your nervous system about who's driving. Use low arousal language when stakes rise. Accusations and absolutes heat the room. Observations and requests cool it. Swap. You always dump this on me last minute, for when deadlines move same day, quality slips. Can we lock tomorrow's deliverables by 3 p.m.? Calm tone, decisive content. The goal isn't to be nice. It's to keep the channel open so information can move. Compress the moment. Under heat, the mind juggles 10 variables and drops them all. Choose one outcome and one next move. For a hard conversation, outcome equals understanding plus boundary. Next move equals, I want us to get this right. Here's what I need. What do you need? For a presentation, outcome equals clear decision. Next move equals, in 3 minutes, I'll show the options and trade-offs. Calm doesn't ramble, it routes. Install a pressure pocket for the worst second, the spike when you're about to say the sentence you'll edit in your sleep. 2 micro behaviors, 1 silent breath, 1 anchor phrase. Breath buys time, phrase buys direction. Pick one. Slow is smooth, outcome over impulse, or lead with calm. You're not performing, you're steering. If, then cues make calm automatic. If my face heats and words want to rush, then I pause 3 breaths and widen my gaze before speaking. If a message provokes me, then I draft, walk for 2 minutes, and send the version that serves the outcome. If someone escalates, then I drop my volume and speed by 10%. Rooms follow the lowest heart rate. Protect the after. Pressure leaves residue. 2 minutes of decompression. Walk, water, jaw unclench. One thing that went right, one to improve. Prevents the next hour from paying the bill. Calm is maintenance, not a mood. In the end, calm is not what you feel. It's what you practice when it matters. It's the choice to place the cup steadily, even when the hand still shakes. And maybe that's the real edge. Not louder power, but cleaner control of the few levers that change everything. Lesson 6. Turning no into signal. I used to hear no as a verdict on my idea, my value, my timing. It felt like a door closing on my face. Then I started treating no like data, not a wound, a reading. A no can mean misfit, mistiming, misframing, or misaudience. Sometimes it means not yet, sometimes not this, sometimes not with me. When I interpret it, I learn. When I personalize it, I stall. Start with the reframing. Rejection is redirection. If a path closes, I ask 3 questions before I take it personally. 1. Fit. Was I offering the right thing to the right person? 2. Frame. Did I present it in a way that made the value obvious? 3. Force. Was I pushing for my timeline instead of aligning with realities? Often the no sits in one of those buckets. I adjust the bucket, not my worth. There's a composure benefit too. When no becomes signal, you stop leaking energy into defense. You use that energy to refine. You get curious. What would have made this a yes is a far better question than, why don't they like me? One breeds iteration, the other breeds insecurity. Make it practical. Build a post-no protocol, a short sequence you run automatically. I use 3 steps: debrief, distill, decide. Debrief. Write a 5-line note summarizing the context and the feedback, explicit or implied. Distill. Extract one controllable lever: message clarity, timing, audience, offer. Decide. Pick the smallest next experiment and schedule it. No ruminating. You move. Sharpen your language around no, both receiving and giving. When you receive it, resist the debate. Respect the boundary. Request one actionable datum if appropriate. Totally understood. If there's one thing I could improve for next time, what would it be? When you give it, keep it clean and kind. No, thank you. This isn't a fit for me right now. Here's what I'm open to: boundaries that are decisive and humane, protect relationships and your time. Turn no into map updates by tracking patterns. Create a simple log. Date, who, where, what you proposed, reason given, your guess at the real reason, and the lever you'll test next. After 10 entries, patterns emerge. Maybe your ask is fine, but your timing is off. Maybe the audience needs a different benefit. Maybe the gatekeeper isn't the decision maker. Pattern recognition turns randomness into terrain you can navigate. Use if-then cues to stop the spiral. If I feel the sting and the urge to explain myself, then I thank them, log the no, and run my protocol before I talk about it. If my mind writes the story, I'm not good enough, then I replace it with the question, what would turn this into a yes for someone specific? If I'm tempted to lower my standards to get a yes, then I pause and ask, would this yes cost me more than it pays? Remember timing. Many yeses are born from earlier, well-handled no's. Professionalism compounds. A respectful response today often reopens the door in 3 months. Put a reminder on the calendar to circle back with new value. No pressure, just proof of progress. Quick update. We fixed X and shipped Y. If Z becomes relevant, happy to revisit. There's also the boundary you owe yourself. Do not accept a yes that betrays your terms. A desperate yes is more expensive than a clean no. If a collaboration requires you to dilute your message or abandon your standards, let it go. The right yes respects who you are and how you work. Finally, widen your sense of success. Sometimes the win isn't converting a no, it's building the resilience and clarity that make the next ask better. The person who keeps moving after no becomes rare, magnetic even, because they're powered by direction, not by approval. Treat every no like a compass ping. It tells you where you are, not who you are. Adjust course, protect your standards, ask a cleaner question, and take the next small step. And maybe the door that closed just spared you from a room that wasn't meant for who you're becoming. Lesson 7. Not feeding provocation. Provocation is a request for your energy dressed up as a conversation. Some messages aren't seeking truth, they're seeking fuel. I used to meet every spike with a spike of my own, as if mirroring intensity proved strength. It only proved I was easy to steer. The quiet upgrade was simple. I stopped rewarding bait with bandwidth. Not because I'm above anyone, but because I'm responsible for the tone of my own day. First, name the pattern. There's a feel to bait. Loaded wording, false deadlines, public call-outs. Questions that aren't really questions. So you finally decided to show up. Once you see it, your job isn't to win, it's to refuse the frame. You don't argue inside their script, you step outside it. That might mean ignoring the jab and answering the one relevant fact. It might mean moving the conversation to a calmer channel. It might mean no reply at all. Use the 3 R's. Recognize, reframe, root. Recognize. This is a hook. Even whispering that buys space. Reframe. Swap heat for clarity. Let's stay with specifics. What's the concrete request? Root. Pick the healthiest path. Private message, scheduled call, or a clean boundary. I'll respond when we can discuss this respectfully. Language matters. Replace accusations with observations and options. When messages include insults, I pause the thread. If you want to align on X, I'm available at 3 p.m. or tomorrow 10 a.m. Calm tone, hard edges. You're not performing detachment, you're enforcing conditions for usefulness. Make it practical with if-then cues. If a comment attacks my character, then I respond, if at all, only to the underlying issue, once, and move on. If someone escalates in a group chat, then I take it to DM with one line. Happy to sort. What outcome do you want? If the same person keeps baiting, then I set a rule, one reply per day, facts only, and I log interactions for patterns instead of arguing history. Design your environment to starve bait. Turn off push notifications from channels that inflame. Batch replies. Install a 30-minute delay on anything that spikes your pulse. Most fires die without oxygen. Your attention is oxygen. And remember, not feeding provocation isn't silence forever. It's choosing the moment and the medium where your clarity has leverage. Sometimes the strongest move is a short, humane boundary. This tone doesn't work for me. If we can keep it specific and civil, I'm in. If the tone returns to chaos, you've already decided you're out. Consequences are the grammar of boundaries. One small experiment today. Pick a low-stakes provocation and let it pass. No counter, no defense. Notice what happens to your heart rate, your focus, your afternoon. Then handle one necessary conflict with the 3 R's. Recognize, reframe, route. And watch how much cleaner the outcome gets when you refuse to play the game you didn't choose. You don't have to fight to prove you're strong. You prove it by being hard to move, steady enough to meet heat with direction, and wise enough to leave some invitations unopened. Lesson 8. Stay unpredictable. Keep evolving. Predictability feels safe until it makes you easy to manage. I've noticed that when I repeat the same moves, same schedule, same arguments, same routes, life learns my patterns and boxes me in. Comfort starts calling itself stability, and I mistake familiarity for wisdom. Evolution breaks that spell, not by burning everything down, but by rotating skills, routines, angles, just enough to stay alive to possibility and hard to control. Think of your life like a chessboard. If you only play one opening, even a mediocre opponent will prepare for you. The fix isn't chaos, it's range. Keep a few reliable foundations, sleep, baseline, core work, and vary how you approach everything else. Cycle your training, strength block, mobility block, deload. Change your information diet for a month. Long-form books instead of feeds, conversations with people outside your bubble. Rotate your creative constraints. Write with a 2-sentence cap per paragraph for a week. Present ideas in diagrams for the next. Small rotations create fresh pathways in the brain and fresh possibilities in the world. Unpredictable doesn't mean flaky. It means strategic novelty with a steady spine. The spine is your values and non-negotiables. Novelty is how you express them today. One day you assert a boundary with a direct sentence. The next, you assert it by changing the channel. Calendar invite, written brief, clearer scope. Same principle, different move. People can respect a person whose core is consistent even while their tactics evolve. Make it practical with a simple cadence. Explore, exploit, evolve. Explore. Set aside one block each week to test something new. Tool, script, outreach method, training protocol. Exploit. When you find a winner, double down for a season. Don't abandon what works just because it's not shiny. Evolve. Before the winner stalls, introduce a small variation. New audience, new format, new metric, new rep range. You stay ahead of stagnation without chasing novelty for its own sake. Use if-then cues to keep this real. If my week feels like a loop, then I book a 1-hour range session and try a method I've been avoiding. If I catch myself giving the same answer to the same problem, then I force a second option. What's one unconventional route that still honors my standards? If a routine starts to numb me, then I tweak one variable instead of throwing the whole thing out. Guard against the two traps: performance mimicry and identity rigidity. Performance mimicry is copying someone else's tactics without their context. It looks like evolution, but it's cosplay. Keep asking, does this fit my values, my constraints, my season? Identity rigidity is the voice that says, I'm just not the kind of person who... That sentence is a cage disguised as humility. Replace it with, I'm becoming the kind of person who can try this for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is long enough to learn, short enough to survive. Track evolution like an athlete. Keep a simple log. Date, experiment, what changed. Signal, what improved, what suffered. Decision, keep, kill, tweak. After a month, you'll see patterns. When you do your best work, which formats land, which workouts move your mood the most. Range becomes data-driven, not random. One small experiment today. Take a recurring task you've been dreading and run it through a new constraint. Set a 20-minute sprint with a 3-sentence limit per idea, or pitch the solution as a 1-page visual instead of a wall of text. Or do the first draft by voice note while walking. Notice how a tiny shift reopens energy. That's the point. Evolve the how to protect the why. Staying unpredictable isn't about being mysterious. It's about staying alive, mentally, emotionally, creatively. You keep the room guessing just enough that you can't be boxed by yesterday's version of you. And maybe that's how momentum feels from the inside. Not faster, but fresher. One steady spine, many living angles. Lesson 9. Training in chosen discomfort. Comfort is a generous host. It feeds you, sits you down, and slowly steals your edge. I used to wait for motivation to visit before I did hard things. It visited less and less. The shift was simple and strangely kind. I started choosing small, useful discomforts on purpose, not to suffer, but to signal. Each tiny hardship tells your nervous system, we can do hard things and stay okay. That sentence, repeated, changes who you are under pressure. Pick frictions that build capacity, not identity drama. A cold walk at dawn, one honest conversation you've been postponing, the first rep of a project you keep avoiding, finishing the workout when the song ends, not when you feel ready. Keep the dose small and the cadence steady. Discomfort works like strength training, consistent, progressive, recoverable. Too heavy and you quit. Too rare and you stagnate. Just right and you grow. Design it like training. Expose, arrow, recover, arrow, adapt. Expose. Choose one controlled stressor. 5 minutes of focused writing before your day begins. A short social pause instead of a reflexive reply. A meeting where you ask the clean question you usually swallow. Recover. Breathe longer out than in. Hydrate. Short walk. Tell the body the stress is complete. Adapt. Log the rep and slightly increase the dose next time. 6 minutes, 2 clean questions, a longer pause before responding. Capacity compounds in quiet. Make it practical with if-then cues. If I feel the urge to avoid, then I do a 2-minute starter rep. 2 minutes of writing, 2 push-ups, 1 email. If I'm tempted to soften a boundary to keep peace, Then I deliver the boundary in one sentence and breathe through 30 seconds of awkward. If my mind screams later, then I say out loud, future me is busy, present me can do 1 rep, and I do it before the next notification. Curate the discomforts that matter. Useful. The extra call that clarifies stakes. Taking the stairs when you want the elevator. Sitting with a craving for 90 seconds before deciding. Saying, I'll answer tomorrow, when you feel pressured to decide now. Useless. Masochistic schedules. Public self-punishment. Chaotic all-nighters. We're building resilience, not theatre. The test is simple. Does this friction leave me stronger for tomorrow? Track it like an athlete. A tiny log. Date, discomfort chosen. Dose, how you felt before/after. What changed? Patterns will appear. What time of day you're strongest? Which micro-stressors build the most confidence? Which ones just drain? Keep the builders. Retire the drainers. Your protocol becomes personal. One small experiment today. Pick a micro-hard thing and place it early. 5 minutes of the task you're avoiding. 1 clean boundary said kindly. A 2-minute cold rinse at the end of a warm shower. Then do 1 tiny act of recovery. Water, breath, sunlight. And notice how your mood steadies, not swings. That steadiness is the point. Chosen discomfort doesn't make life easy. It makes you capable. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and become the kind of person who moves anyway, calmly, consistently, without spectacle. And maybe that's freedom. Knowing the hard thing won't break you because you've been practicing the art of meeting it on purpose. Lesson 10. Guarding mental input. I started treating my attention like a home with a door, not a public park. For years I left it unlocked. News alerts at dawn, inbox before breath, timelines swiping my mood left and right. I called it staying informed. Really, I was outsourcing my state to whoever shouted first. Guarding input isn't about ignorance. It's about sovereignty. You choose what gets to set your temperature. You choose which voices get a seat at your inner table. Begin with the bookends of the day, the first hour and the last. They're leverage points. In the morning, I give reality the first say. Light in my eyes, a glass of water, 3 slow breaths, 1 small action toward the work that matters. No feeds until there's a footprint from me in the day. At night, I land the plane on manual, not autopilot. Tech parked outside the bedroom, a few lines of reflection, a short page of real paper. Mornings decide momentum, nights decide recovery. Protect both, and the middle hours behave better. Curation beats restriction. Instead of no internet, I made a short whitelist. A few long-form sources, a couple of thinkers who challenge me without flooding me. 2 books I'm actually finishing. I moved everything else out of reach, off the first screen, notifications off, badges gone. The point isn't to be pure, it's to make the best choice the easy one when I'm tired. Tired brains don't win debates with shiny objects. They follow the path of least resistance. So, I changed the path. I also split my day into 2 invisible lists, making and taking. Making is output, writing a paragraph, solving a problem, recording a voice note, having a direct conversation. Taking is input, reading, watching, scrolling, reacting. I aim for a simple ratio. Touch, making, before taking, and make more than I take, especially before noon. When I keep that rhythm, my mind feels like a room with windows open. When I don't, it feels like a crowded bus. Gossip and outrage are particularly expensive inputs. They masquerade as connection or justice, but they drain agency. If I hear a story framed to spark heat, I ask for specifics, times, facts, the part that is mine to act on. If there are none, I let it pass. Precision is a natural filter. Vagueness is fertilizer for anxiety. The same goes for headlines engineered to spike me. If a title makes my pulse jump, the rule is simple. Read the full piece slowly or skip it entirely. No in-between doom skimming that harvests emotion without giving understanding. Make this real with if-then cues. If my thumb drifts to a junk app, then I switch the phone to airplane mode for 10 minutes and put it face down. If a headline makes me feel urgent and helpless, then I either dig for context or I step outside and do 10 slow breaths, longer out than in, no reacting from half information. If a chat turns gossipy, then I steer to specifics or excuse myself without apology. If I feel mentally crowded, then I close all tabs and write the smallest next sentence I can say in my own voice. The aim isn't perfection, it's reclaiming enough signal to think like myself again. Design helps. I keep a first touch object where my phone used to live. Paper notebook, pen on top, to catch the mind before the feed does. I batch messages into 2 windows, so I'm not living in permanent half focus. I set device do not disturb by default and grant exceptions for the few people who truly need instant access. That's not selfish. It's how I ensure that when you have me, you really have me. Guarding input also means guarding who you copy. Most of us don't just consume information, we adopt identities by proximity. I check my timeline like a mirror. Who am I becoming by who I'm around? If the answer makes me smaller, I prune, not because those voices are bad, but because they're not mine to carry just now. Influence should make you more yourself, not a blur of someone else. One small experiment today. Give the first 20 minutes after you wake to reality, not a feed, light, water, breath, one sentence of your own making. Then notice the shape of your morning, or pick one app to uninstall for 7 days and put a book where that icon used to be. See what returns: curiosity, patience, original thought. You'll feel it in your conversations, fewer borrowed takes, more grounded presence. Your mind is a garden. The world will always blow seeds over the fence. Guarding input isn't building a wall, it's choosing what you water. Less noise, more nourishment. And maybe that's how freedom sounds from the inside. A quieter room, a steadier voice, and the space to decide who you'll be before the world decides for you. Before you go, take one slow breath in and a longer breath out. Keep that rhythm as you step into the next hour. You don't need louder promises. You need one quiet agreement you'll actually keep. Choose it now. Under-explain once and deliver. Buy 10 seconds before a heated reply. Touch sunlight before touching a screen. Small, repeatable, real. That's how a different life begins. Without noise, without an audience, with you deciding the temperature of your day and moving like someone who has nothing to prove, nothing to protect, and nothing to lose but old habits. And maybe that's enough power for today.